Welcome to session 7 of Building Windows based applications with Winforms. So far, we have been working with controls without bothering to store the data that we have entered. Data is useless if we do not store it. Data should be stored so that we can refer to it in the future. Take an example of a computer institute. Consider a scenario where we want to find out the fee amount paid and the fee amount payable for all the students. It is not feasible for the counselor to remember the fee details of more than 1000 students. Similarly, it is not feasible to collect the fee details from the students one by one. On the other hand, if this data is stored in a central position or location, getting the required details would be possible in just a matter of few minutes. This central location where the data can be stored is known as the database. The data in the database is secure and readily available whenever required. So, our session objectives are: explain the client server architecture, describe different data access components, explain what is ADO.NET, list the basic components of ADO.NET, and use of data form wizard. Coming to the basic introduction about what is data and database. Data stored in the database should be available to the users as and when required. In the example earlier which we have seen for a computer institute, suppose a user has to access the database to retrieve the details of the students. He can request for the data that resides in the database. The request from the users component is sent to the computer where the database resides. The system where the database is stored is called a server. The computer from which the user sends the request is called the client. This is what is known as your client server architecture or application. To provide the clients with access to data on the server, different data access methodologies or technologies are available. ADO.NET is one such technology which will be focusing on this session. Moving on with data access components. Database access is the core of most applications. In a traditional client server application, the client maintains a connection with the server while the application is being executed. So user requests data, sent to database, server is running in the background, it sends the data back to the user. The client sends a request for data to the server and at regular intervals checks to see if the connection is active. If the server goes down, the client that is connected to the server displays an error message to the user before closing the connection. The client can access the database using different data access components. Some of the data access components are ODBC, OLEDB, ADO and ADO.NET. Now let us look into each one of these data access components in brief. So we start with ODBC. ODBC means Open Database Connectivity. It is a set of application program interface that can be used to connect to a variety of relational databases. The core functionalities of ODBC are to provide a database connection, preparing and executing SQL statements, processing transactions, returning the result, and recording and reporting errors. The working of ODBC, we may have multiple client applications both using ODBC access the relational database management system or RDBMS. The next is OLEDB, object linking and embedding for databases. OLEDB is an API that is based on the component object model or COM. OLEDB is a lower level database interface that can be used to access different kinds of data. The data source may be in any format such as SQL Server, Oracle, an Excel spreadsheet, or even a text file. So here the client applications using OLEDB and ODBC connection access your databases.